Final topic today. I can't believe we have to go back to this, but I mean, we simply have to. Is Kenny Payne doing a bit at this point? I don't understand why he keeps doing what he's doing in press conferences. If you didn't see it last night, just another extremely viral Kenny Payne moment. This time he's talking about Tyler Johnson, who Kenny claims, this was his claim in the quote. If you watch the full video that's out there, the claim was that Tyler Johnson did not want to play. He wasn't sure he wanted to play because they didn't have the right tights that he wanted. So he apparently mentally was not all the way there, didn't want to play. And then in the second half, this is an exact quote from Kenny Payne. In the second half, he accepted the fact that we didn't have the kind of tights that we'd never had for him. And he played well. If you watch the video of this quote, like, people in the room are visibly taken aback by this. Like, there's an out loud audible chuckle from someone who's just like, what did you just say? It's such a baffling choice to say this. And I think Kenny Payne was clearly making a joke. Like, he's trying to make light of a situation. He tried to play it into like college kids these days. Am I right? But all it does is further exemplify his incompetence as a man who's tasked with running this Louisville basketball program. So seriously, I'm convinced he's doing a bit. I think that's what this is. I think this is a conscious decision to look incompetent. For what reason, I don't know. What is your read on the Kenny Payne situation?
Yeah, so if I look at it optimistically, I would argue that if this was any other team and any other coach, and he was like, oh, yeah, one of our players didn't even want to play because he didn't have the right tights, but he stuck through it, we'd be like, oh, ha, 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 whatever. But when you're a team who needed a Conference USA program to lose an extra player on the court to beat them in overtime, and you've already had 2 awful losses, and everyone views you as a joke, then ironically, there's nothing funny about Louisville basketball right now because it's really sad. Like, even after what they did in Empire Classic, they haven't looked good since. Like, they look back to being bottom feeders, and people are just sort of wondering, like, do you have any kind of control on the program? Because, like, if a player says to Rick Pitino or any coach, hey, I don't even want to play if I don't have my tights, that coach is literally going to look at him and say, okay, well, you can sit down and not play today. And that would have been the end of it. And he would have kept it under wraps because he would have been so mad. And I think the problem is, why isn't Kenny Payne mad that a player on a team that can barely beat anyone is even talking about that when you still need him? Like, he had 8 points against Bellarmine, and they needed all 8 of them to get by, who was a really bad D1 program. The fact that that's even, part of the what seems to be an awful culture right now is just really disastrous. And I just don't. I think Kenny Payne, and if you want to look at it negatively, maybe he wanted to out him. Maybe he wanted to embarrass Tyler Johnson. Like, that's what you're doing. I'm going to put it out here in the public radar so everyone can know and everyone can look at you looking bad. But at the end of the day, none of us is going to care about a backup freshman. We're all going to be looking at you as like, the fact that he told you that shows how little respect he has for you. And he's just simply a freshman that's only known you for a couple of months.
Yeah, I hope it's not that. It could be that, but I hope it's not like a mind game to try and embarrass a kid, because even if this is exactly what happened, even if there's a generous interpretation of this event for Kenny Payne that he's telling the truth, it's like that's just a devious way to go about this. Like, it's bad on your character if you're trying to throw your player under the bus like that. If that actually happened, I would hope as a man you try and protect that person and work things out behind the scenes. It should just be stated, there was absolutely no need to go here. Like, there was not a pointed question that he needed to answer here. And if he needed to address what happened with Tyler, he could have easily just said, kind of dodged the question, right? Like, yeah, well, he was ready. We got him ready for the second half. He's good to go. Like, no further questions. Like, fine, not an issue whatsoever. Nobody's talking about it. Kenny made the conscious decision to go into detail about such an absurd situation that means one of two things to me here, and one of them's a conspiracy, but I truly believe this is where we're at. Either Kenny is just that stupid, and this is a disastrous hire that we all kind of think it is right now, right? Like if he's that stupid enough to think this was like a funny thing he could just talk about in the media, he's so in over his head, and this is just not going to end well. What I think is actually happening here, it's a full-blown conspiracy theory, but I believe this makes more sense than Kenny being that stupid. His buyout is $8 million if he gets fired this year. His buyout is $6 million if he gets fired next season. It's going to keep dropping. He knows he's not in this job long, right? Like, Kenny's not an idiot. He might be, but I don't think anyone can be that stupid. Like, even if you're stupid, there's people in your life that have to be telling you, like, you're not long for this job unless something changes, right? So he can read his contract. He's got people that can advise him on what's in his best financial interest. And he knows there's no way in hell he's still the head coach of this program at most generously 2 years from now, but realistically at the end of the season. If he knows he's gone, the smartest thing he could do financially is get fired. It's an extra $2 million, right?
Yeah, well, and to add on to it, not only would he want to leave, he'd also want to put it out there like, hey, this is who I'm working with. These are the players that I have to deal with. We have a guy who doesn't even want to play because he doesn't want his tights going on. Because this is a guy who still has NBA connections. And I'm sure he doesn't want to be fully done coaching, even if he's just an assistant. It's like, hey, these are the players that I'm kind of dealing with. It's not all me. Like, this isn't good. So maybe he's also just putting that out there for the future, saying, hey, look at this.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the only thing that makes sense, as sad as that is, and it's not fair to his kids, but I know it's speculation. I truly believe that that's what's happening here. I think he knows he's not long for the job and is just in full-blown burn it down mode. If I get fired, great. I get $2 million more. Let's do Carter and I have done like how long is he gonna last for, and he already made it further than Carter thought he would. This is the second time he's had like a viral quote this season. The first one was when he said Mike Woodson tricked him when he went zone. That was hilarious. What's the next viral thing that Kenny Payne's going to say? Like, can we predict the next excuse he makes? Like, where is this headed?
It has to be the DePaul game. I think he's going to say something, win or lose, in that game. Something about the talent level, or maybe he might actively joke about the fact that, I'm not going to get fired after this one if he wins, because everyone's going to call it the fire game. Like, whoever loses that one probably gets canned. And I think he's going to make some kind of joke, because maybe he just doesn't care, and he's just going to say what's on his mind, which I appreciate as a media member, but something's going to happen. I think he may be so self-conscious about how bad the team is that he's sort of trying to joke his way a little bit out of it in the media, which backfires because the team is a joke.
I think one of two things happens. I like the prediction that something centered around the DePaul game is going to come. I think option one, he is going to either joke or not joke, but just be so abruptly straightforward to the point of challenging the media to fire him. I think that's like, say they lose to DePaul. I think we get a quote from Kenny Payne in the press conference that's just like, fire me. What are you going to do? Fire me. And like, he's going to mean it in a joking way, but everyone's just going to be like, dude, what are you doing? My second option here is I think he's going to praise Sky Clark, who's actually been pretty great as a scorer for this team, right? Like, he's scoring 20 almost every night right now. He had 21 last night in the win over Bellarmine. I think he's going to say that Sky Clark deserves National Player of the Year recognition at some point. Like, just pure delusion. Give my guy Sky some accolades, and everybody's going to laugh at it. But one of those two things, that's what I would expect next from Kenny Payne. What an unprecedented situation, man. He's hilarious. This is good for the sport. It's more fun than talking about Villanova losing.
Hey, I'm not mad. I can't wait to see Sky Clark drop 20 on 8 or 20 shooting in a loss against Pittsburgh. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, might be a win the way things are headed right now. I don't know. You taking Sky or are you taking Bub?
I'm taking Bub out of loyalty, but I'm going to need him to learn how to go left one of these times.
I can't believe you hesitated on that. That's crazy. That's how I know Pitt's down bad, by the way. You think for 1 second I would hesitate on a Doug McDaniel prompt against Sky Clark? Come on.
Not a good time to ask. When you see your team not make a field goal in 8 minutes, it's you're kind of depressed. Like
Yeah.
at least you know your team will give up 100 to Long Beach State, but you'll score at least.
Yeah.
Kind of more depressing when you can't score and you just watch a bunch of clips.
Yeah, fun losses. I'm fine with that this season. That's okay. No expectations, right? It's great. All right, fun show today.